This is our first event in our Building Wyoming's Future Community Conversation series. Today, we're going to explore one of the biggest generational opportunities in front of our state, the growth of the advanced nuclear industry and what it could mean for Wyoming jobs, businesses, families, and long-term economic resilience. We're joined today by four panelists who each work in different parts of the Wyoming economy. I'll keep introductions brief so they can speak for themselves. We have Josh Parker from BWXT, Mike Wandler from L&H Industrial, Mayor Shay Lundvall from Gillette, and Tyler Sassy from Western Welding Academy. I'd like to invite each of you to briefly introduce yourselves and share why you're interested in being part of this conversation about Wyoming's future. Josh, we'll start with you.
Certainly. Josh Parker, I'm Senior Director of Advanced Nuclear Fuels at BWXT's Advanced Fuels Division. I'm responsible for commercialization of TRISO fuel out into the nuclear industry and serving the advanced nuclear community and the reactors that are being developed out there. Interested in Wyoming's future, we're looking to site a nuclear fuel facility in the Campbell County, Gillette area of Wyoming. Had lots of good engagement in the state here today and continuing to appreciate that and look forward to the future. So,
Thank you. We'll go ahead and jump to Mike Wandler.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here. I'm Mike Wandler. I'm the CEO of L&H Industrial. L&H is a heavy industrial manufacturing and repair company headquartered in Gillette, Wyoming. Been in Gillette since 1964. I'm also the CEO of Evercore Energy. It's a startup that was started up to buy microreactors and lease the energy to mining companies. And now we're using it to do nuclear quality for manufacturing parts for the nuclear industry. I also run Wyoming Innovative Entrepreneurs, which is a group of innovative entrepreneurs across Wyoming that want to grow and diversify the economy. And my interest in nuclear is to innovate energy. I think nuclear energy is incredibly innovative energy, and it's ripe. It's growing right now. Microreactors, all of the reactors are growing because of the energy needs. It's a great opportunity for Wyoming to enter that supply chain for manufacturing, which we could do very well, and all kinds of other diversifications like Josh is doing BWXT on the TRISO fuel plant. So happy to be here.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And now Shay Lundvall, Mayor.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate the opportunity here. My name is Shay Lundvall. I am the mayor of Gillette, Wyoming, and I am born and raised here in Gillette. And so I've been raising my family here. I've been working very hard with a lot of people every day to build the community where our people and our industries and our future really thrive together. So I'm excited for what's ahead in the next 5 years, short term, 3 years. But being a part of this from the inception, from the supply chain, it's just been an incredible opportunity in so many different ways. So look forward to the conversation today.
Right on. Thanks, Shay. And finally, Tyler Sassy.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm the founder and CEO of Western Welding Academy. We train welders for all over the country. And, my interest, I think, in this is that Wyoming is the best state in the entire country, and America is the best country in the entire world. And whether we want to realize this or even like it or not, we are in a race against all these other countries in this AI, artificial intelligence race. And the biggest restriction to us winning that race is power and power consumption. And so I'm super excited about nuclear. I think this is really the wave of the future.
Cool. Thank you. Well, and thank you all for being here. I think as you can hear from their introductions, these are not folks who are sitting around waiting for the world to come to them. They're going out and taking it on. And so I think, spending an hour with all of you is a gift. And so thank you for that. Speaking of spending an hour with you, we had 225 signups for today's webinar. I think it really reinforces that there's a lot of people across Wyoming who care about where the state's going. and they want to be part of the conversation as it develops. And so before we begin, we just want to get a quick sense of how the audience is feeling about Wyoming's economic future. And so we're going to pop up a poll here that you can all take, and I'll give about 30 seconds or so. It shouldn't be too bad to do. I can kind of watch folks giving us some information here. Well, it looks like almost everyone has participated. It's pretty interesting. Just to kind of give everybody a feel for it. This is pretty cool. So about 38% said I'm concerned about long-term economic decline, and 45% said they're hopeful and see new opportunities. And so I think that that's pretty interesting. And so we can kind of now think a little bit about that in the context of other things we've done. You know, I want to acknowledge something that no matter where these responses landed, our statewide polling shows that most Wyomingites feel the same tension between concerned about that long-term economic decline, but also we're concerned, kind of see that optimism. And there's there's a lot of excitement and there's both excitement and fear, I guess, in Wyoming right now. And there's actually a growing group of people across the state, and we call them the team of thousands, committed to building a future that works for our kids, our communities, and our economy. And that's why we're here today, because there are significant opportunities to build our future, but they're not going to seize themselves. Over the past few years, we've been talking to people around Wyoming about how they're experiencing the economy in their communities, in their businesses, and across the state. And a few months ago, we took this a step further and commissioned a statewide poll about people's attitudes toward economic growth. And through this effort, we learned something important. Wyoming isn't divided on the big issues. We're actually aligned. And the data is clear. Despite what we hear, the myth that our economy is doing fine, it's simply not true. And multiple indicators, and we're going to flash a few of these on the screen, show that we're in long-term structural decline. We're the orange line there on our GDP. It's pretty challenging. We're going to jump ahead to a couple more pieces of data where employment's flat and our wages are actually shrinking. And those are challenging. Those are challenging indicators for us as folks who are working on the economy. We don't like to see these the way they are. But the other thing that we also saw is that 3 out of 4 Wyoming voters say their local economy is stagnant or shrinking. And I mean, people are feeling this. They see it in the job market, they see it in the youth out migration and declining opportunities. And so let's move on to some good news. Wyomingites don't want to sit still. There's a myth out there that says Wyomingites don't want growth. And we actually busted that as well with this polling. 65% of the residents say they support population growth if it brings more opportunities for their families and friends. 80% want their community to take strong action to grow jobs and the local economy. 80%. And then what we think is probably the most powerful finding of all is that 9 out of 10 of us agree that keeping and attracting young people is essential to Wyoming's future. And I'll just tell you, I don't think these challenges are solvable by, competing harder for the limited resources that we currently have. We need to stop focusing on how to slice that existing pie into, smaller and more competitive pieces and robbing Peter to pay Paul. And instead, we've got to start directing our energy toward growing a bigger and more dynamic economic pie that creates new opportunities and shared prosperity for all Wyoming communities. And projects like this are tangible opportunities available to us to transform that aspiration into reality. And right now, as Josh Parker mentioned, there's a proposal underway to build a 200,000 square foot advanced nuclear fuel fabrication plant in Gillette. This project leverages our existing uranium resources and expertise and turns them into high value advanced energy exports and onshoring more of a critical supply chain that we need in the energy sector. But this is bigger than a single project or a company. Advanced nuclear manufacturing, fuel development, and next generation energy technology align almost perfectly with what Wyoming residents say they want in their communities. We heard them say that they want high-paying, future-focused careers. They want industries that bring long-term stability. They want opportunities that keep our young people here, and they want growth that strengthens the local business environment. And projects like we're talking about today, this BWXT Advanced Nuclear Fuel Facility in Gillette, they're not just industrial developments, they're generational opportunities. And they help diversify our economy in a way that honors our strengths as an energy state, but prepares us for the next 50 years of global change. And that brings us to today's conversation. As you heard earlier, our panel includes leaders who are shaping and contributing to Wyoming's nuclear future from the ground up, economically, technologically, and locally. They're living examples of the opportunity that's in front of all of us and the leadership that Wyomingites say they want to see. And so, to start this conversation, with just some additional grounding in the fundamentals of this project and this moment, I'm going to turn to Josh Parker to ask a little bit more about BWXT and their selection of Wyoming for this major investment, and what gives you the most confidence in long-term success for this facility. Josh?
Thanks, Josh. Certainly. I've been coming to Wyoming as part of BWXT's business for almost 3 years. My first time I set foot as a business person was in December of 2023. And met Mike Wandler, Marcio Paez Barreto was at the Wyoming Energy Authority, and several key people around the state at that time. And they were interested in Wyoming taking part in this larger growth and ecosystem that was coming about in regards to nuclear, advanced nuclear, and even just growth in the existing nuclear market. We were originally looking at Wyoming as a site for potential microreactors. And that was our first project with the state, was down in the Southwest Wyoming, looking at microreactor deployments in the Trona Patch. And that's still ongoing, so I don't want to take anything away from that. But as part of that, we got to know the state. We did supply chain days throughout the state, and went to 7 locations. And got to see the capabilities that Wyoming has. And there's some things I get to say out in the nuclear industry is I say Wyoming is the best known secret in the nuclear industry for those that actually know. Y'all have maintained a high degree of manufacturing and capabilities and just can-do-it attitude that I don't see around in many other states. Sometimes the words small but mighty come to mind for Wyoming in that ability. So as we got to know Wyoming more and more, a lot of people came down to visit us. We've spent a lot of time on the state, well over several man years at this point. The state came to us and said, "Hey, if y'all decide to build a facility, would y'all consider the state?" And we said yes. So we said, "Well, we want to partner with you and make sure that we're doing the right things. Do you have the right water? Do you have the right workforce?" And what happened is we came to that conclusion that Wyoming is a state prime for economic development that aligns with manufacturing. It aligns with BWXT as an energy growth and just a national security there as well. Tyler said it. We live in the greatest country. That's definitely BWXT's place here as well. We believe that energy security means national security. And Wyoming fully believes that, and we hear it in the state. Just your welcoming and opening arms to make us feel welcome, to make us feel like this could be a place where BWXT could invest, and not just a facility that's just going to be there for a couple of years. This is a nuclear fuel facility, an NRC licensed facility. BWXT has 2 of those. Next year, the one here in Lynchburg will celebrate 70 years. In May of 1956 was when it was opened. It's decadal. This is generational differences in communities. And our second facility in Erwin, Tennessee, opened just behind it in 1959. So it's got a couple more years until it turns 70. But we're looking out here at the future. And Wyoming thinks long-term too, which is great because that fits right in with the nuclear infrastructure. So those are some of the reasons of why Wyoming and why we're there.
Great. Thanks, Josh. And, I think that experience that BWXT has in this space, as well as, in the country and national security, but just the longevity of these other facilities really kind of shows that I think taking that longer term view is going to be super important for us. But one of the things that we're starting to notice is that people are curious about the nuclear industry, and but also maybe a little bit confused in some ways and trying to understand this. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to do a quick poll again to try to understand how familiar our audience is with the nuclear energy opportunities that are emerging, and just see what people are feeling here. It's like people are getting comfortable with the polls. It's cruising up there. Or looks like by and large, people are sort of that very familiar to somewhat familiar, which doesn't really surprise me in some ways because there's a lot of curiosity and maybe a little bit of trepidation. But here's what's interesting about this is that in a lot of the polls that have been done over the course of the last few years, Wyoming is a very energy literate state. We understand where electrons come from and we know what it takes to create them. And I think that this poll shows that. So 73% are either very familiar or somewhat familiar with the opportunities that are emerging in Wyoming. I think that's a really, really important piece of information to understand. So thank you all for doing that. We're going to go ahead and stop that poll and move on to the next little bit here. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Josh and add Mike to this question real quick, if you don't mind. There's been a lot of concern circulating about nuclear, I think, especially over the last few weeks. What do you think people need to know about the advancements and safety of nuclear power? And Josh, since we heard from you, I might turn it over to Mike first and then go to you. Mike?
Yeah, so I think that what people need to know is it is the cleanest, safest energy, period. And the nuclear community holds themselves to an incredibly high standard, way higher than any other energy that's out there. And I know there's concerns about the safety of it because people don't quite understand it. I've deep dove into all of those with BWXT and with Idaho National Labs, and completely satisfied that it is the cleanest, safest energy, and we won't do anything that will pollute Wyoming or frankly uh, uh, poison the world. So Tyler said it. The reason that we want the USA to do this, one of the big reasons we want to do it as we compete with Russia and China on the race to deliver microreactors globally, is a world full of Russian and Chinese microreactors is not a safe world because they're not going to hold it to our standards. So yeah, I think the thing that I want everybody to know is it's not competition for coal, oil, and gas. It's it is energy, but that's about as familiar as it gets. It's got its whole new area to go into, and it's clean and safe. I've even done some deep dives on the radiation, which is what I think freaks most people out. The safety factor on the radiation and all of this is incredible. You'll literally get more radiation out of the ash pit out of Wyandotte than you'll get anywhere in a nuclear plant. So yeah, it's clean and safe. And Josh has a lot more on that than I do.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Josh, going to weigh in as somebody who understands this industry probably better than most other humans.
Certainly. There's some things out there. A lot of times people misconstrue a lot of what happened in the 40s and 50s and 60s with defense nuclear, with the commercial nuclear market. And what it is we're an ever evolving place here in nuclear. So I often try to make sure there's misconceptions out there. There are defense things that we have cleanup and liability that we're still dealing with, but that's not commercial nuclear. And Mike kind of hit on it, that it is the safest out there. There's the industrial standard of safety that you have, and there's OSHA, and if you're in mining, there's MSHA. The nuclear industry says that's great, that's a baseline, but we actually go over and above, and we impose our own safety culture. We have a group called the Institute of Nuclear Power Operators, and you say, well, that's just great, that's for the power operations. It's for everybody in the nuclear supply chain. And they have a statement that there are 12 traits of a nuclear safety culture. And those are over and above of what OSHA does. And one of those things is continuous improvement. We know more today than we did. And every time we learn something, we make ourselves more safe. and we continually try to improve in that as we move through this. So that's one of the key things, is we're very safe today, and we continue to push ourselves to be safer every day as we move into tomorrow and the future, and continue to learn from what we have in the past. So I think that's what I would tell people is we're constantly engineering things to be more safe, to be better, to be, minimize radiation doses, those types of things to the people around us so that we can work safely and deliver this energy to the nation. So,
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. So here's a question, and I'm gonna give it to you first, Tyler, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Shay. What does a project like this one mean to your company? And you can tell us a little bit more about your company up there in Gillette, and then what you see it, how it might affect the Wyoming energy sector as a whole.
Yeah, that's a great question. We're focused at Western Welding Academy. We're super focused on the future, and the future really comes down to the youth. That the kids of today, they're going to be the generational leaders of tomorrow. And I hate to keep talking about China, but this is a massive country that they lose 50% of their workforce over the next 20 years. And what it comes down for them is food stores, and I don't want to bore you with a bunch of details, but they've got almost 2 billion people compared to our 350 million people. And the big differentiator, like the pivotal point for China as they go through this next 20-year period, which we're all going to be alive at that point, is AI. And AI, I mean, if you don't use it, you should. It makes everything faster and better. But that's what's going to really decide whether we live on, in my opinion, whether we live under Chinese rule or not. Because I mean, if you've got that many people and you're looking at this huge demographic collapse, I don't know. It's a real concern. It's something that we really need to be focused on. I feel like as a country, and investing into our youth and really setting them up for success, because AI is coming. Period. And so let's win this AI race. Let's make sure that we've got the best AI. That we're always at the top of the top. America has always traditionally done that, and so. That comes down to power consumption. And for us here in Wyoming, we've got this incredible opportunity. We've got the companies and the resources and the people to make this thing happen. So I think it's really, really important that we figure this thing out and get the power requirements to AI so we can win the race at the end of the day.
Yeah. And Tyler, maybe just really quickly, how as you've talked to maybe hundreds of thousands of young folks around the country in your tours and things. Tell us a little bit more about what, when they come to work for you, do they think about that they're welding, or do they think they're doing something else?
Yeah, that's, welding is obviously, it's tough. As Mike Wanler knows, it's a hard job. It's a hot, sweaty job, but it's got to get done. And if we want to continue to make, and keep America at the forefront of the world, it's all about building strong young people. And I think to answer your question, Josh, they know that they're contributing to the overall bottom line of America, and they're making this a safer, more effective, better country. You can sit around on the couch and watch video games, or you can get out there and go out there and make something happen. And it's really inspiring to see that grit and tenacity in some of these young people of America.
Cool. Hey, thank you. Shay, I'm going to turn that, similar question over to you. What does a project like this mean for Gillette?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I think it's one of those things where Gillette has been very fortunate for many years because of the coal, oil, and gas. And I think it's something that when I got elected, it was part of my campaign to diversify and try and do things that probably hasn't been done before. Well, when you do that, you don't really know where those opportunities are going to come. And so it's exciting to look back and say, as so many people have been involved with this, that the zigzags of communications and efforts and the help and all of those things all add up to where we're at today. And, I think the momentum that we have is so powerful because as these polls are showing, people want growth. And we often say in business and leadership, you're either growing or you're dying. You hear that. Well, what does that mean? Well, you got to go get it, right? Like, so my background has been in sales and business development stuff. And, I think one of those things that attracts me and what I think this is going to, the leverage and the amount of opportunities that this is going to bring to Campbell County and Gillette probably aren't even known yet. And we're just excited to be a part of it. And I think if we have energy in the state, but Campbell County, energy capital of the nation, but are we? Until we actually got to go get it, when we have to be the ones to actually, I guess, step in this race and start running. It takes a lot of effort, and it just so happens that I'm young and hungry, and I want to see Gillette thrive. And I think one of the things that if you get to know me, I love having fun, and it's but there's also a place and time to be serious. And this is a serious matter in the future of Campbell County. And these opportunities, again, Josh alluded to them, are once in generational. And it's one of those opportunities where we all will look back 50 years from now and say we had a small piece of it. Man, how awesome, right? Like that we can all be in our different aspects of the economy across the state, that you had a piece. At least you businesses will have that opportunity. If they don't want to participate, that's fine. No problem. No harm, no foul. But those that do, man, jump on board with us, join us, be a part of the solutions. We don't have all the answers, but what we do know is that we want to grow, right? Like the workforce expansion, the housing, all of those needs in Campbell County. I often say success begets success, and you want to be around people that see a vision, have a vision, and then let's attack it together. So ask me if I'm passionate, Josh.
Yeah, Shay, you could tell that you're pretty excited about this. And here's something that I think a lot of times folks don't fully realize about this opportunity is that this opportunity could be anywhere in the nation. A lot of the things that we are very proud of, and I think we have a right to be, those are things that appeared underground millions of years ago, or were pushed up out of the ground millions of years ago. Whether it's the coal in the Powder River Basin or whether it's the Tetons over on the west side of the state, we didn't bring those here. They were here, and we're able to take advantage of those, and that's great. But a lot of these opportunities that we see, especially with BWXT and the advanced nuclear, it could be anywhere in the nation. And so we don't have a natural competitive advantage. And so we're gonna have to play the game a little differently. And I applaud the Wyoming Energy Authority for playing it differently. And they played the game the way it needed to be played so that we could have this opportunity. And with that, I want to turn it back over to Josh if I could and talk a little bit about this. You did a statewide supply chain tour, is that right? Can
That
you
is
can you tell
correct.
us a little bit about what you learned, about what some of the opportunities that might be in Wyoming and the businesses and how they can contribute?
There's a huge amount of potential inside of Wyoming, is what we found from that supply chain tour. And that supply chain tour focused heavily on our micro reactors. So I want to be clear because we're going to repeat this a little bit for building a nuclear fuel facility a little later. But Wyoming has some awesome manufacturing companies. I'll give an example. So we were at a meeting down in Laramie, and one of the things that an advanced reactor needs is graphite, and we need to have it machined to high tolerances. And after the meeting, one of our gentlemen was approached, and they said, "Well, this company makes sights for firearms, but we machine our own capabilities here and tooling, which uses graphite." And said, "Do tell us more." They ended up, they're now on our approved suppliers list. They've made some big 80-pound blocks for advanced reactors. And, it's one of those things you wouldn't think that a firearms sighting manufacturer could jump into the nuclear industry, and very easily could do that because of their capabilities. Even more so, the flexibility and the ability of Wyoming manufacturers just to stand up and answer the call. We were going to visit this company. I hadn't seen them in person, and so I was driving between Denver and Laramie to actually go and see them in person. We got a call. MIT, somebody didn't send them some samples for their test reactor, and they said, "Hey, if you can get stuff to us in a week, we'll put it in for free." Free neutrons inside of a reactor are not something that happens very often, and we're in the car, three of us, and we start strategizing. We're like, wait, we're going to this company in Laramie. It would be great if they could manufacture some test samples of graphite. And, well, you think you can do it in a week? So we got into the facility, and they're like, we want to show you the blocks that we're manufacturing. We're like, yeah, we know you can manufacture blocks. Let's sit down and talk about, can you manufacture some very small samples to go in MIT's test reactor? So had a totally different discussion. Guess what? They said, we're on board. We're going to do it. And so a week later, that was on one Monday. The week later, on the following Monday, there's a package at MIT with test samples for graphite that was machined in Wyoming, because Wyoming manufacturers just stood up and said, yeah, we can do this. And so those are under irradiation. It's just amazing. The capabilities, and you go from that to Mike Wandler's shops at L&H, which I think are, as I said, is one of those unknown secrets in Wyoming. You have pressure vessel manufacturers, small components, electromechanical. It's just, you cover the breadth of the industry and the capabilities that can support the overall nuclear industry, not just BWXT, but others as well. And I don't want to put Mike on the spot, but there's other things that you're looking at beyond what just BWXT can bring. So,
Yeah, Mike, go ahead, jump in on that. This is a really important conversation on the supply chain. So let's talk.
Yeah, the supply chain is huge, and it's here right now. So Josh drug us into a project for a Holtec plant that is going to be the largest project that we've ever won by 4 or 5 times. So we run 120 million a year. This is a $70 million project, and BWXT Josh brought that to us. It's not his project, but he had a friend of a friend, right? These guys all know each other because nuclear is a small world. And we wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if the Energy Authority wouldn't have been working with Josh, and if I hadn't met him, and if he hadn't toured our shop. So that you can't underestimate the value of having Josh and Eric and all of the BWXT people running across Wyoming and seeing the capabilities and seeing who's interested. And we're into the first one, and that's going to lead to us setting up nuclear quality at L&H, it's hard to do. It's even harder without friends like BWXT. So I know that some people were worried about the Energy Authority doing that a year or two ago. I hope they're over that, because this one job alone is a huge win for Wyoming. And then I was talking to TerraPower Fred this morning, and he's like, "You did what? You're getting your nuclear quality. I'm going to start sending you stuff, right? Make sure you don't work for anybody else." I mean, the opportunities in the space for, as Josh said, legacy nuclear is what these products are for. That's happening right now. They're retooling all of these old plants. And then we all know about SMRs, which is what TerraPower is doing. So that requests for quotes are happening right now. So TerraPower, Fred was very excited that we're getting even more serious in Wyoming, and that BWXT is helping us get more serious. And so we're entering that supply chain. And then the microreactors, there's no supply chain for microreactors. So and that fits a lot of the smaller shops in Wyoming. So I couldn't take a great guess at what the value of that is, but just imagine the first job we've landed is $70 million. So this is in the billions for Wyoming, and we're going to lead the way, and then we're going to disseminate that out, best practices through Wyoming Innovative Entrepreneurs, to anybody in Wyoming that wants to join that supply chain. And And that's just in the supply chain. That's just in manufacturing. We haven't even got it into repairs, just new manufacturing. And we're really good at that in Wyoming. And there's not many states that want to do that. But to your point, Josh, other states will. So there is a moment of time, and Shay knows this from being in economic development. So does Josh, that you have you got to seize these moments in time. You can't start making it hard on your customers unnecessarily. So we need to. One of the things that got BWXT here, and frankly that got TerraPower here, was us being welcoming and saying, yes, please come here, and we would like to work with you, before anybody else was. Now the rest of the country has woken up and said, no, no, we want you guys over here. We saw that with Radiant. It didn't take much pushback from politicians with political rhetoric to make those guys say, you know what, we're good. We'll just go over here to this other state. The opportunities that are there, we don't want to throw them away, because it's billions of dollars just in manufacturing, and then this plant that Josh is talking about, that is going to be a massive amount of employment, and the residuals of that, the other things that get brought into Wyoming because Josh is here and because that plant is here. In my mind, it's going to be huge. And to Shay's point, it does make Wyoming the energy capital of the nation. And if you do my other dream, which is buying those microreactors, buying $1 billion a year worth of microreactors and leasing that energy to mining customers and mineral processing customers globally, now you've got something that really adds perpetual value to Wyoming.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we should just we're gonna ask the audience here in a second something, but before we do that, I think that's an important note to remember for everybody, is that, and Shay, you said this, success begets success. But if we're not trying these new things, we don't open those doors. And so I think that that's the thing, is we're going to have to open some doors. It may seem a little risky at first, but once you open those doors, the number of opportunities that come your way, it's going to be at a scale that we hopefully can't even understand. And I think we're seeing a small example of that in what Josh just talked about, in what Mike just talked about. Those are two opportunities for Wyoming businesses that turned into giant opportunities. Imagine what's going to happen over the course of time. So let's ask the audience a little bit. What do they see as some of the biggest benefits that Wyoming can gain from nuclear growth? So if everyone can just take a quick moment and put their thoughts in here about what you see as the biggest benefits for Wyoming. Take just a second to do that. We'll give you about 10 more seconds to answer. We can keep things rolling along. All right. Well, it looks like to me that high-paying, stable career opportunities for residents was the winner, followed by a stronger, more diversified economy. And then a pretty close race for opportunities for young people to stay, growth for local businesses, and advancing Wyoming's energy leadership. I think those are all really good things, and it sounds like our audience is pretty in tune. Want to jump really quickly now. One of the stats that is really, really important to all of us, I've been harping on this whole we export more young people than any other state thing for quite a while. I think folks are tired of hearing me say it, but until we turn it around, I'm going to just keep saying it. But 9 out of 10 of us feel like it's really important to give opportunities for youth. And Tyler, you've probably interacted with more young folks than anybody in the state, just based on your tours and based on the people that come through your school. Tell us a little bit more about, new career paths, but also how should our colleges and trade schools evolve to support the needs and the youth's needs and the industry needs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I stop coddling them, you know. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that people think, well, we got to make it easy for them. We got to give them, more breaks than normal, or, and a lot of the old people say that, these kids, they just don't want to work anymore. Well, that's just factually incorrect. They want to do something that's bigger than themselves. They want to, and Mike really understands this. Mike's one of my heroes from a missions, perspective. But they want to do something that's important and impactful, and they want to contribute to society in a really meaningful way. And I think as anybody that's guiding that effort, we really need to look at opportunities, and then communicate those opportunities to them and show them what it really means. And they're happy to pick up the shovel. They're happy to get in the ditch and put a welding hood on, or learn the machining trade. Or they're super excited. It's just up to us to really paint that picture and stop coddling them. Don't make it easy on them. They don't want it easy.
Well, I love that, and I think that's good, because I don't think that the challenges we face moving forward are easier. So I think it's good, and I think that what you've been able to show is that when people know that they're part of something bigger, they're much more willing to do the extra work, to take that extra load, and to do things that we frankly don't know how to tell them to do. And so I think that that's a really critical thing. I love that. Maybe we'll get some shirts painted up or something there that say that. I think that's really good. So Shay, tell us a little bit about Gillette and Campbell County. You're at the center of this opportunity. And, as you look at a new industry and the workforce growth and some of the local infrastructure and challenges that you might face, what do you see from this new industry, and maybe what it's going to mean to Gillette and Campbell County in the future?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this, and I have to say, my previous leaders, fortunately, Campbell County has had the opportunity to have a lot of money, and they've been able to provide infrastructure, roads, water, all of those. But they didn't know that this was going to happen now, right? So they were planning ahead, and now we're able to now capitalize on those efforts years ago. And so I think the main thing is making sure that we continue to coordinate efforts. We continue to have strategic investments for our residents, and understanding like what are those traffic patterns, so that people can move safely and efficiently through our community. On the utility side, definitely something that we want to have good, reliable water, which the Madison pipeline is just a strong example of how, you have a lot of people from state legislature to local, folks that have all over the years supported that. And I think we're now seeing the benefits of how a project like BWXT could tap into that, and probably will. And so that's just, we want to be proactive planning, and we want to get out in front of that the best we can. We're going to continue to do that. We also have wastewater. We often look at that. Campbell County is looking at, or the city of Gillette just wrapping up a major wastewater treatment facility project. And so those are all going to be anchors in our infrastructure to help with the future growth. And we often talk about capacity. There's no doubt that Gillette has that capacity and then some. And so it's not going to be an issue. We also talk about like the digital side of it, the digital efforts, and having a strong fiber network. We do have that, and we're working through that. And so those connectivities are really going to be vital going forward. And we're going to continue to work through those and plan for that, so that, as things continue to evolve, they'll be able to take that on, and not have to worry about, any kind of bottlenecking in any of that infrastructure. So,
Hey Shay, so as we kind of look at this, and maybe I'll just open it up to everybody, and maybe you can all maybe just chime in with 30 seconds. We'll go back to Josh to start with. I think, as somebody who's traveled the state, plus you've been in this industry quite a while, and you've understood the ecosystem a little bit better, the landscape of partners that you need. Would you mind kind of like answering the question of what are the other opportunities or industries that we should be looking at as a state to make sure that the team of thousands that's out there working on this in their own communities and that we're out there recruiting for, what are the other industries that we should be looking at to create those, careers and the challenges and the missions that Tyler talks about so that we can complement what's going on in advanced nuclear?
Uh, that's a lot to probably untangle in probably 30 seconds. It's interesting when you look at nuclear, you look at it, and I start to look at industries that support defense, that support aerospace. A lot of advanced nuclear is pulling out of those industries. They've done a lot of the development, and now that development is coming into advanced nuclear. It's also why some of the things in Wyoming work is that several of your industries are in those places and are leveraging those capabilities. In general, you have a lot of the core. I think it's just expanding what you already have present. You have very specialized machining capabilities. You have some very high tolerance machining capabilities. Those are things that the nuclear industry needs in expansion. I often joke, a TRISO fuel facility. Everybody says that's cool, and it's that. And I go, it's a chemical plant that uses uranium. And I go, y'all are already in the oil and gas and chemical industry. I look at it, and I look at the workforce and the types of people I need, or the types of support structure, and I'm like, it's already in Wyoming. You already have the things to support valves, pipes, pumps, those types of things inside of a facility. So I think it's just a growth of what you already have in there. And then at times you'll look at putting a couple of additionals on, but I can't think of anything right off the top of my head to say specifically, go add this. So.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And maybe Mike and Tyler and Shay, if you've got stuff you want to add there, that's great. But we also have a few minutes, and we do have some good questions that came in. And so I think understanding from Josh's perspective that hey, we have a lot of the components that are already there. We're going to have to probably take a little bit more risk in our businesses than we might be used to. We might have to expand in a way that is useful to us and to this industry. I think it's a great signal for all of our businesses in the state. Anything anybody wants to add before I open it up to a couple questions?
Yeah, I want to jump in on that. So energy, all of the above. So all energies are going to be growing and booming for the next 10 years. So anything we're in energy, we should keep going. And it should be incremental change. So there's a lot of people in Wyoming that Josh has found that can take the step up to nuclear quality. And remember, when you're talking about nuclear, there's a lot of stuff that's not nuclear quality, that's just normal quality that they can step right into. But if you are going to step up to nuclear quality, it becomes very apparent that if you're going to work for NASA, and NASA is growing and blowing right now too, and if you're building parts for NASA, they require a very similar documentation as nuclear. So if you're going to set up a high quality program, all of a sudden you have NASA. It's a huge target, and they are begging for small businesses to work with them and help them right now. It's not a large step to aerospace. So I would also say if you're in aerospace, it's an easier transition over to nuclear. And then hydro, a lot of the people that are running hydro they came out of nuclear. So you'll find very similar quality things there. And then again, if we can set up to own, and we could set up 100 businesses to own reactors globally and fill them up. There's a massive opportunity there. And if you want to turn Wyoming into the Saudi Arabia of the world, that's the way to do it, is own these reactors long-term, perpetually.
Cool, Mike. Well, hey, if you all don't mind, I might grab a couple of these questions because I think it's really really critical to get a little bit of audience involvement. I think logistically, I would love to pull this gentleman off of mute and let him ask this, but I'm just going to ask you. I'm going to ask his question for you just to keep it simple as we close out in the next few minutes. This is from a young man named Zion Rhodey, I believe. He says, I'm a young man, lifelong Wyoming resident that loves this state. I have a year and a half left in my nuclear engineering degree, but it doesn't have a lot of experience in the field. What can I do to contribute to this state and the nuclear field? First of all, can we just say thank you for asking that question in such a cool way and in a giving way? Who wants to take that?
I'll jump on it. So, one, educate your friends, your family, everything that you can about nuclear. If you're in nuclear engineering, share it. That's if I had my druthers, I would go meet everybody in the state of Wyoming and just talk about nuclear and how cool it is. And many of y'all sat at a dinner table that's panelists up here with me. The second thing, you are coming out of your junior year, heading into your senior year, get an internship. You've got the business council's email. They'll put you in contact with me. We have a strong internship program. We're hiring them now. I can help point you to some other places, depending on location and which school you're in. Grab a good internship in the nuclear industry. Go be part of one of the companies that is out there doing some exciting stuff, and just get your hands on some real life experience. Those would be the two biggest things. Share and get a good internship, and then decide where you want to go and be. And hopefully the opportunity exists to come back to Wyoming. I hate to say it, a TRISO fuel factory. I don't hire a lot of nuclear engineers. I'll have two in the entire factory. I hire a bunch of chemical material science, but in general, the industry is needing engineers all over the place. All of them, nuclear, mechanical, chemical. So
Great. Well, that's a pretty fortuitous moment there, Zion. I hope you take advantage of it. I'm sure you will. This has been asked in a couple different ways, so I'll try to sort of mesh all of these together. Are there risks or challenges that any of you see for bringing new nuclear industries to Wyoming? And can you speak to any policies or actions that you think are important to make sure that we're developing nuclear resources responsibly and in the best way possible? And so I think what this question is like, how do we as policymakers make policy that allows us to be open to this new industry, but at the same time protects Wyoming? And any thoughts around that?
Josh, I'll touch this one a little bit on the policy side of it, if I can, on a local level, at least. I think part of what we need to do is I often remind myself that no community succeeds alone. And I think, the ongoing coordination efforts between the local officials, education, understanding what the unintended consequences of a decision are, and understanding the business leaders, and really trying to have the public-private partnerships to leverage within a community. And I think in due time, as people get more involved or ask the questions, and you can then point them to the experts of a particular topic that they need to have, or they would like to have their questions answered. And I think we're seeing that at a local level, and I think that's also encouraging, because that everybody wants transparency and everybody wants to see and be a part of something bigger than themselves. Well, here's your opportunity. These are the opportunities that come along in those conversations and those dialogues that the public, we want to encourage public to ask those questions. And so I think part of how we maintain that trust and navigate those waters is through that input. And so through then, in translating into good policy, it welcomes people, it welcomes businesses that, yes, we are open for business. You are welcome here in the state of Wyoming, and for sure, Gillette, Wyoming. And we want you to be engaged from inception to completion.
Excellent. Thanks, Mayor. So we have, I'm going to ask this one more question. I think we've got time. We're going to do a quick poll and then close everything out. But this question is centers around training, and I think it's an important component. Is we have a workforce, as Josh mentioned, as Mike mentioned, I think everybody's mentioned, we have this workforce that is really good at what we do today, and probably a pretty easy jump in a lot of ways to the next step. Tyler, as somebody who's trained a whole lot of people, do you see opportunities there to help train a workforce for something new and different?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got fantastic people, and all across the state, and obviously all across the nation. I think what really we should ask ourselves is, what will our world here in Wyoming, here in Gillette, or here in America, what will it look like in 30 years? And it's the actions that we take today. It's the conversations that we start. It's the uh, information that we share and spread. It's everything that we do today is going to make a massive difference in 30 years. And we don't want to just kind of evolve to some place. We want to be really intentional about what we're doing. And I think that all starts with training.
Good, good. Thank you. And I think that intentionality of where we're going is seen and it's felt by the work that folks have done to bring this opportunity to us. I think to make sure that our communities are ready for it, and for communities to stand up and say, yeah, this is us. We want this here, and we're willing to do what it takes to make it happen. And I think that intentionality is something sometimes we forget. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. We are going to take one more poll. And that is, what is the most helpful action you feel ready to take after today's conversation? So if you could take just a minute, I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that one. The race is on. You've got 20 left. Well, I have a favorite one. It's running a pretty good race with another one, so I hope it wins. Okay, it looks like it's slowing down here. We'll go ahead and lock that in. And it turns out that my favorite one won. 52% said that they want to share what they learned today with someone they know. And I think, Josh, you hit on this earlier, and we've all talked about this. Let's broaden that conversation. I think it's really important for folks to know what's really going on, get the facts that are available, and really engage more, not just on this topic, but all of the topics that affect our economy in Wyoming. We've got to come out and we've got to talk about it, and we've got to bring it to the forefront. That helps us be intentional about it. It helps us not be passive and be drug around by the rest of the world. It allows us to chart our own path and develop that culture that we love so much here and bring others into it. And so I'm glad to know that most folks are going to be engaging with others and talking with them about what they learned. I'm also glad to know that many people will be attending the next webinar in this series. And so that makes me happy as well. And so all of you that joined today, thanks for doing it. And panel, thanks for your time as well. I, we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to kind of weigh in on where we're going next with this. So before we officially wrap up, you're going to receive a short survey after this event, and your feedback is really valuable in that. Helps us understand what topics matter the most, what questions are still on your mind, and how we can make each session more useful. I know there were a lot of questions that came in the Q&A that we didn't get to touch on today. And so we'll work on shaping our next event to maybe be more Q&A. I think that's really important. I want to say that anybody that submits that survey, you will get entered into a drawing for a set of Wyoming made products. And so you'll get a chance for that. And then more than anything, I want to thank our panelists. You all took time out of your busy schedules. Clearly, based on your introductions, you've got a lot of stuff going on your plate. But these conversations matter. Because our statewide polling shows that we're not afraid of growth. In fact, we want our communities to take strong action to create those jobs that retain young people and build a stronger economy. And maybe more than anything, not just jobs, but a mission for something bigger than themselves, as we heard Tyler talk about today. I think it's just really important that we really show that these aren't just jobs. These are a mission that's going to help our community, help our state, and help our nation, not just be competitive, but continue to lead. And I think that we have a few things that we'd like to ask you to do, not just for this particular topic, but for our long-term future. And I want to ask everybody that's on the call today that you take advantage of this time-sensitive opportunity. We are currently accepting public comment on the proposed state investment in the BWXT Advanced Nuclear Fuel Facility. If you believe this project matters for our future, or even if you just want your perspective to be included, your comment makes a difference. So all the details, including the email address, subject line, and deadline, they're available in the handout in the chat, but you can also send an email very simply to wea@wyo.gov. So wea@wyo.gov. And the deadline is November 25th. So go ahead and take advantage of that now. We'd also like you to, as you said you would, take this back to your circles. Make sure that you engage others in this conversation. I think you're important nodes in the network that Wyoming needs to thrive. And so please make sure that you have these conversations, clear up any myths that people have, and just engage in conversation and listen to what folks are saying. Stay tuned for the next webinar. Building Wyoming's Future is going to continue. We'll be exploring how we can move beyond just extracting rare earth elements to building a comprehensive value chain that leverages our state's greatest asset, which is our people and their ingenuity. And as we close, I'd just like to leave you with the simple reflection. If you were sitting here 5 years from now, looking back at this moment, what is the shift you hope that this project and this conversation helps spark in Wyoming? Is it a shift in confidence? Is it a shift in opportunity? Or is it a shift in how we talk about growth and possibility? Whatever that is for you, that's the direction we're building toward. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being part of the conversation. And thank you, panelists, for taking time and sharing your expertise. Here's to Wyoming's future.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thanks, Josh.